Okay, imagine this. A new kind of digital currency. One that's not just secure, but actually genuinely green. Something that moves past the huge energy drain we saw with early cryptocurrencies.
Right.
And what if that same tech wants to reshape global finance? Like, not just for us individuals, but for governments, banks, big corporations.
That's a big ambition.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into Chia Network. It's a blockchain project from Bram Cohen, the guy behind BitTorrent.
Yeah. Innovative mind there.
Definitely. They've got their own currency, XCH, and a really unique way of handling transactions, verifying them, securing them.
It's certainly different.
And to get our heads around this, we've looked at their official white papers, the documentation, but also, jumped into the discussions happening online, places like Reddit.
Good to get both the official line and the community vibe.
Totally. So our mission here is to give you the full picture, balanced, comprehensive, the tech, the goals, how you'd actually get involved, and yeah, the hard truths too, the criticisms, the challenges.
All sides of the coin, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. You're basically getting a shortcut to being properly informed on Chia.
Let's get into it then.
Okay, let's unpack this. Chia's got some really grand ideas about finance. What's their core vision, like for the future of money and markets?
Well, they talk about a future where financial hubs shift. Not London or New York physically, but technology hubs. They literally say the next Wall Street built-in code.
Wow, built-in code.
Yeah. The idea is that assets, titles, commodities, debt, equity, all that stuff should be issuable,
Right.
tradable 24/7, interoperable, compliant, transparent.
Okay.
And they're explicit about it. They aim to disintermediate the big players, SWIFT, DTCC, Western Union, or maybe get those guys to adopt Chia Tech instead. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
bold.
That is bold, massive undertaking. How could they possibly pull that off? What's the secret sauce? What makes their blockchain different enough to even try something like that?
Right, the differentiator. And it's pretty fascinating, actually. It's their consensus algorithm. Proof of space and time.
Posty, they call it.
Ghosty. And it's significant because it's considered the first really new Nakamoto consensus algorithm since Bitcoin's proof of work back in, 2009.
Wow. Okay. So what does it do differently?
So the core principle is leveraging existing unused hard drive space. That's the proof of space. So instead of burning tons of electricity like Bitcoin,
Right, the mining rigs.
exactly, or needing single-purpose hardware, it uses disk space you probably already have. And this also helps, they argue, with the centralization risks you sometimes see with proof of stake.
Okay, hard drive space. Makes sense. But what about the time part? Proof of space and time.
Good question. The time comes from something called verifiable delay functions, or VDFs. Think of it like a cryptographic puzzle that's designed to take a guaranteed amount of actual time to solve.
Guaranteed time, even with supercomputers.
Yeah, even with massive computing power. And this enforced delay is really crucial. It stops bad actors from just, instantly creating tons of blocks to mess with the chain. And it helps make sure the validators, the people confirming transactions, are chosen randomly and securely. Adds a layer of integrity.
Got it. So space uses existing hardware, time adds security, and slows things down deliberately.
Exactly. And the claim is, this makes it way greener. They say Chia uses about 1/300th of Bitcoin's electricity annually.
1/300. That's tiny in comparison.
It is. And on e-waste, they estimate like a worst case scenario of 0.0015 metric kilotons for Chia versus maybe 30.7 for Bitcoin. So the design goal was secure like proof of work, but green like proof of stake.
Okay, so powerful and environmentally friendlier. That's the pitch. How does that translate into actual tools for building things on, especially these financial applications they're aiming for?
Right, the tools. Well, they developed their own smart contract language called Lisp. It's based on Lisp, a functional language.
Right. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and the core idea is that everything on the Chia blockchain is a coin, but these coins can carry smart contract capabilities. Lisp itself is designed specifically for finance security, simplicity, easy auditing are the goals.
So how do you issue, say, a stock or a bond on Chia using Lisp?
They use something called Chia Asset Tokens, or TSTs. It's their take on colored coins, an older crypto concept where you basically tag existing blockchain units to represent something else, like an asset.
Right, I remember colored coins, so C-Teats inherit Lisp's features.
Exactly. All the smart transaction stuff, the compliance features. They argue this makes SEs better suited for high compliance assets than, say, ERC20 tokens on Ethereum, which have definitely had their share of security headaches.
Can you give an example of something built with this?
Sure. They've built things like slow paper wallets. These allow for time-delayed fund recovery. So if your backup gets compromised, you have time to redirect the funds before the thief can.
Oh, that's clever, like a time lock.
Kind of, yeah. And also DID wallets for digital identity. These have deep recovery options. You can delegate control, useful for things like digital inheritance or even proving KYCML status.
Hmm. So they're really baking in features for the regulated world.
It seems like it. That focus on compliance, on institutional adoption, feels like it was there from day one.
Which is fascinating. It makes you wonder how that shapes the whole network, especially compared to Bitcoin's more permissionless roots. So if they're building for big players, what does it actually take for someone like you or me to get involved? How do you become a farmer? What's different from being a miner?
Yeah, farming versus mining. The core difference, and maybe the genius of it, is how it opens up participation. Farming Chia means dedicating unused hard drive space to validate transactions.
Okay, so my spare drive capacity.
Exactly. A huge contrast to Bitcoin mining, which needs those power-guzzling specialized ASIC machines. With Chia, farmers install software. It plots the unused space, basically generates and stores big files of cryptographic numbers called plots.
And what kind of computer do you need? Anything special?
Not really, that's the point. Most computers from after 2010 with a 64-bit CPU should work. Windows, Linux, Mac OS. You can even run a basic farm, command line style, on a Raspberry Pi 4, 4 gigs of RAM. Very low power draw.
A Raspberry Pi. Seriously?
Yeah, for farming.
Yeah.
Now, it's important to distinguish plotting, creating those plot files, that is resource intensive. It'll be slow on a Pi or basic laptop. But farming, using the finished plots to validate the network, that doesn't need a fast computer at all. And those plots can be farmed for years.
Okay, plotting is the setup work. Farming is the ongoing participation.
You got it. Think of it like planting seeds versus tending the crops. Plotting takes effort up front. Farming is low-effort maintenance.
So you really can use existing gear. Old hard drives finally getting a second life, maybe.
Potentially, yeah. It sounds quite accessible.
Okay, so for someone totally new to this, how do you actually get started, step by step?
All right, let's break it down simply. First, hardware. You need a computer, obviously. Enough RAM. Then, space for temporary plotting, about 275 gigs per plot. An SSD here makes plotting much faster than a regular hard drive. RAM is even faster if you have loads.
Okay, temporary fast storage for plotting.
Right. Then you need storage for the final plots, which are about 109 gigs each. This is usually where people use regular, cheaper hard disk drives, HDDs.
Because you might have lots of plots.
Exactly. And you also need a dedicated SSD for the blockchain database itself. It's around 130 gigs now and growing. Needs decent read-write speed. A 256 GB one might last you till 2025, maybe.
Okay, hardware sorted, then.
Then you download and install the official Chia software. Run it, configure it. This means creating a wallet. You'll need to get a tiny bit of XCH, they call the smallest unit a mojo, maybe from a faucet online.
Why do you need mojos already?
For tiny transaction fees, like creating something called a plot NFT. This costs 1 mojo. It's basically a token that links your plots to a farming pool. Very important.
A pool, like mining pools.
It's exactly like mining pools. For small farms, joining a pool is pretty much essential. The source data suggested a single plot might only win a reward block once every 161 years on its own.
Whoa, okay, pooling smooths that out.
Right. You get smaller, more regular payouts. And the plot NFT lets you switch pools easily later if you want.
Gotcha. So hardware, software wallet, mojos, plot, NFT for pooling. What's next?
Syncing your node. This is crucial. You have 2 main choices. Sync from Genesis, from the very beginning of the blockchain. That's the most secure way, but it can take days, maybe even a week or more.
Oof, okay, the slow but steady way.
Or you can download a checkpoint database. Much faster sync, but you have to trust the source. Only use official downloads, verify the checksums, security first. You can actually do other steps while it's syncing in the background.
Right, so while it's syncing, create the plot.
Yep. Use the Chia application, point it to your temporary drive, associate it with your plot NFT, but be warned. Plotting hammers your drive with writes. Consumer SSDs aren't really designed for that level of constant writing. If you plan to make thousands of plots, they can wear out relatively quickly.
Good to know. Consumer SSDs have limits.
Definitely. And if the plotting process gets interrupted, power outage, application closes, you lose the progress for that plot and have to start it over.
Okay, patience required.
A bit, yeah. Then, once your node is fully synced and your plot is finished, that's it. You're farming. You can check the farm health section in the app to make sure everything's running okay.
Okay, that sounds manageable, even with the syncing and plotting hurdles. But it brings up a big question. Security. How do you keep your farmed XCH safe, especially if you're just using your regular home computer?
Excellent question. And absolutely critical. Cold storage is key. Paramount, really.
Cold storage, meaning offline.
Exactly. The
Mhm.
best practice is create a wallet on a secure computer that never connects to the internet, an air-gapped machine. Then, that 24-word mnemonic phrase you get, the keys to your kingdom. Store it civically, safely. Write it on paper, put it in a vault. Stamp it into a metal wallet. Or use a dedicated hardware wallet device that keeps the key offline.
So don't keep large amounts on the computer you're farming with.
Definitely not. The advice is to have a hot wallet, the one connected to the network with just small amounts for spending or fees. Regularly sweep your larger farming rewards to your secure cold wallet.
Makes sense. What are the common ways people lose funds?
Well, running the farmer software on your main PC, the one you use for browsing, email, everything else, that's risky. Using third-party farming tools from sources you don't absolutely trust, leaving remote desktop access open, basic cybersecurity hygiene is crucial.
We'll be paranoid.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Assume everyone's out to get your keys. A don't trust, verify mindset is essential in crypto.
Right. Okay, we've covered the vision, the tech, how to farm, but Chia hasn't been without controversy, right? Like any new tech, it's faced criticism. Let's dig into some of those hard truths.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's important to look at these impartially. One of the biggest points of contention right from the start was the pre-farm.
The pre-farm. Explain that.
Okay, so when the Chia mainnet launched, the company, Chia Network Inc., created 21 million XCH for itself. They call it the strategic reserve.
21 million coins.
Yep.
Just for the company.
Yeah. And this drew a lot of fire from parts of the community. Some people used really strong words, calling it purely greed, even saying farmers were like Bram's slaves. They point out it's a huge chunk of the total potential supply. Around 61% is still held by the company based on current info.
That does sound like a lot, especially compared to Bitcoin, which had no pre-mine like that.
Exactly. Critics call it a huge asymmetry. Now, Chia's official rationale is that this reserve is meant to fund the ongoing development, deployment, and ecosystem building for the long haul, sustainably.
Okay, so they say it's for funding the project.
Right. And they plan to govern it through a public company structure eventually for transparency and aligned incentives. They've also stated they don't intend to sell, invest, or pay dividends with that XCH until they are a public reporting company. And they promise 90 days notice if those plans change.
So a big stash held centrally, justified as long-term funding versus the community criticism of unfairness. That's a core tension.
Definitely a major point of debate.
Okay, here's another big one. We talked about the green claims. Is Chia really green? How does that hold up when people dig into it?
Yeah, the green debate is complex. Chia obviously hammers home the eco-friendly angle of proof of space and time, much less energy than Bitcoin, much less e-waste, leveraging existing drives, promoting a circular economy for storage. That's their story.
But what do the critics say?
Critics argue, well, Chia is only green now because it hasn't hit massive scale yet. They claim if Chia became as valuable and widely used as Bitcoin, if energy use would scale up, maybe even surpass Bitcoin eventually, because more value means more people dedicating more space.
So it's green because it's small.
That's one argument. The other big concern is e-waste, but from a different angle. SSDs. Remember how plotting is write-intensive?
Right, wearing out consumer SSDs.
Exactly. Some estimates suggested consumer SSDs might only last 1-3 years under heavy plotting. That creates its own e-waste problem, even if the farming itself is efficient.
So less energy waste, potentially more hardware waste from the setup.
That's the counter-argument.
Hmm.
Now, Chia has responded to this. They launched something called the Circular Drive Initiative. They partnered with Seagate, Western digital sustainability experts like Bill McDonough,
What's the goal of that initiative?
to increase the average useful life of hard drives, aiming to double it from maybe 4 years to 8, and also to create a proper market for used data center drives,
Yeah.
specifically for farming. So reuse drives that would otherwise become waste.
Interesting. Trying to tackle the e-waste problem head on.
Seems like it. It's an ongoing effort.
Okay, what about actual use cases and adoption? We hear the grand vision for finance, but some critics say, well, what's it being used for now?
Yeah, that's another common point. No use case currently. Some community members argue that demand is mostly driven by speculation right now, not real utility. And that farmers selling their XCH just to cover electricity and hardware costs puts downward pressure on the price.
And concerns about whether big banks would really trust a network potentially running on, Raspberry Pis in people's basements.
That perception issue. Chia's response is always to point back to their target audience: governments, financial institutions, large corporations. They aren't necessarily aiming for peer-to-peer payments as the primary use case right now.
So where's the proof of that institutional interest?
Their main showcase project is with the World Bank Group. It's called a Climate Warehouse.
Climate warehouse, what's that?
They're building a public, unchangeable database for carbon credits, specifically for trading under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. The goal is transparency, mobilizing climate action, and showing off secure, compliant asset trading on Chia.
Okay, using it for carbon markets. That's a
Yeah.
concrete example.
Yeah. And they mention other things, like a partnership with SpaceNo for sustainable agriculture tech. Their strategy seems focused on attracting serious tech talent and ensuring their platform can interoperate with existing systems to become that global financial hub they envision.
So the use cases are developing, but maybe more focused on the institutional side than typical crypto projects.
That seems to be the direction, yeah.
Okay, finally, security again. We touched on cold storage, but there have been user reports of hacks, right? And people really seem to want better wallet options like ledger support. What's the situation?
Yes, there have definitely been reports of users getting their XCH stolen. Often, investigations trace it back to familiar causes: running the farmer on their main computer that got compromised, using dodgy third-party software, or just not using cold storage properly.
So often users' security practices.
It often seems that way, yes. But the community demand for hardware wallet support, particularly Ledger, is very strong. And currently, XCH isn't supported on Ledger devices.
Why not? What's the holdup?
Chia Network says the integration is basically in Ledger's court now. They've done their part, and it's a priority for them. They're also looking into using secure elements on smartphones to make mobile wallets safer, too.
So progress is happening, but not there yet for Ledger.
Seems so. And it just reinforces the point. Until those easy hardware solutions are available, robust security, like proper cold storage, air-gapped computers, safely stored keys, is absolutely essential. Long-term crypto folks know this. Hardware wallets have saved many people from losses over the years.
Absolutely crucial. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground. We dove into Chia Network, looked at their proof of space and time, that big vision for compliant, sustainable finance, how you actually become a farmer.
Yeah, the practical steps.
And we also didn't shy away from the trippy stuff, the pre-farm debate, the green claims versus the e-waste concerns, adoption challenges, like the hard truth.
It's a complex picture, for sure.
So, thinking about the future, what does this all mean? If Chia actually succeeds, if they get big institutions, governments using their public blockchain because it's compliant and transparent, does that change what we think of as decentralized?
That's a fascinating question, isn't it?
Because the early crypto ethos was so much about permissionless access, empowering individuals, bypassing the very institutions Chia seems to be courting now.
Exactly. How does that original spirit square with a future where the main users might be banks and governments? Does it set a new standard, or does it dilute the original vision?
It's a real tension there at the heart of programmable money, maybe. Something to keep an eye on.
Definitely something to think about.